Mayor of Kingstown, episode 5. Yeah, this was a good one. This was a good one. I'm trying not to make it too long. Mike, it starts with Mike at the prison waiting to talk to Kyle since he knows that Callahan is his cellmate or in the cell next to him. Bunny's all excited because he's getting his shipment of weapons shipped out, and he's just feeling like a real boss. Giddy. But look who is watching. Mr. Terminator. Another thing, Bunny's friend, that right hand man that I'm suspicious of, was telling Bunny about the time they were supposed to, the train was supposed to leave or show up or whatever. And he said it in military time. And Bunny was like, just say 10 o'clock or whatever. I don't know. I found that odd that speaking in military terms. I don't know where he got the driver from, but he may not be who Bunny thinks he is. Mike breaks the news to Kyle that Callahan's his cellie, and Kyle did not know. Kyle was shocked. He said, "I'd never asked him his name." And Mike asked him, "What has he given you? What did he offer you?" And Kyle's saying nothing. He's not telling Mike. I probably would have lied to him too, though. Mike did tell. He told Kyle, he's like, Merle Callahan is one of the nastiest people I've ever met, and that's saying something because Mike's met a lot of people. Ian gets called into the captain's office and he tells them it's happening. The grand jury, they're going to indict you. I'm just giving you the heads up. Kyle's back in his cell, and Callahan is trying to fish for what was happening or where he went or who visited him because he said, early morning visit, and he was digging. So Kyle is trying not to give him too much. He said that it was his lawyer. So back to Mike. So he shows up to see the warden, and he had a little tussle with Torres. So Mike's talking to her um, about Kyle being next to Callahan, and she's like, "Mike, how did you even know about this? I just found out." And he was like, "My brother told me. I saw my brother. He's smart." Well, Kyle ain't really that smart because he did not figure it out. But anyway, that's what he told the warden. And he told the warden, she's like, "Well, I just found out. I got the paperwork and process, whatever." And then Mike says to her, the cartel has been like pretty much riding high here since you've gotten here. He said, "I don't know who's gotten to you, but I can help you." Like he thinks maybe, see, I was thinking that she is definitely in with the cartel, but she has a lot of power, but maybe not. Maybe she's being blackmailed. I don't know. That's the spin he's putting on it. He's like, "I can help you." She tells him she is in control of her life and everything in it. So whatever. And then she said mentioned the paperwork being put through for Kyle to move. And Mike's like, whatever, because he's not happy with the way things are going. Mike leaves and then he calls Ian and he says, "I want you to put some pressure on her." Or what did he say? Rattle her cage. And I'm thinking, rattle her cage. I mean, I don't think that's a good idea, but okay, Mike. And Ian's with it, and he tells Stevie, and Stevie's like, I'm starting to feel like he's over all this because he was like, now what, basically. Mike goes to see Tracy and he tells Tracy, about Callahan being in there with Kyle, and you got to get out of town. And she's pissed off. She's pissed at Mike, saying it's his fault. Everybody's basically dying, like his mother and a few other people and all that. And she's blaming Mike. She's just upset. And she does figure, that was it them that tampered with her car and that night, or was it the same night? I don't know. So here they are rattling her cage. Um, they pull her over. They pull the warden over and go in her car. And she's like, "Where's your warrant?" And they're like, "What warrant? You told us we could. Right. There aren't any cameras." And Ian was coming at her pretty hard. And he was like, "There aren't any cameras, are there? Th- we're going to search your car." And they did. Again, I'm thinking, oof, not a good idea. Ian found her little hideaway switch and found her gun, and he took it. They let her go. She's pissed. And she said, "So what was all this about?" And Ian told her bad intel. So Tracy leaves, and they're escorting her away. And I'm thinking, okay, does Mike not think that they put a tracker on Tracy's car? She's going to stay with her sister, but I thought for sure that her car was going to blow up. I really did. Baby in it and all. I just thought for sure that was going to happen, but it didn't. The warden gets in her car and she realizes her weapon is gone and she's pissed. She gets a little rattled. So maybe she isn't, maybe she isn't up high in the cartel or whatever or have any power because she gets rattled really easily and like she was taking pills before, so she's under some stress. She seems all calm and cool, but so Ian goes to Mike and he's like, yeah, she's connected. Mike's like, no shit. He was like, I told you that's why I wanted you to pull her over. So Ian is really like trying to hammer it to Mike that we need to arrest her. I can get her on the gun and I can make the whole like the police, or not the police, but the prison corrupt and get her out of there. And Mike is like, no, because there are heavier hitters. So we want to get them. But Ian really wants to put her away. And I think the warden thinks that's going to happen. That's why she was so upset once she found the gun was missing. Mike said, no, she knows it's gone by now. Let her come to me. There's a Terminator, and he is in the with those fuel tankers that were taking drugs to the prison. Ian knows just who to go to. He goes to Robert because he wants to get to the witness because he's about to get some serious time if this guy testifies, right? So who do you get? You get Robert. Mike goes to see Evelyn and he asks her, what is it that you need? What do you want? And she said, what happened? He said, everything's happened. And he wants to know what it will take for her to back off Kyle. And so he can get out. And she said, there's nothing you can do. I want Robert. I want Robert. And she said, and Ian's going down no matter what. So Mike leaves. Callahan's trying to get at Kyle again. And he tells Kyle, yeah, Mike's, a real trip. And so he lets Kyle know that he knows who he is. And this is Kyle's reaction. Robert and Mike go follow the witness. They find out who he is and they follow him. And Robert's getting out of the car and he has his gun. And Kyle, or not Kyle, but Ian says, you don't need that. What are you doing with that? But he doesn't try too hard to tell Robert to put his gun away. He just makes that statement. Robert's talking to the guy. The guy's like, I'm not talking to you about anything. Ian gets out of the car and the guy recognizes him, of course, because he's the witness. And he's like, no, no, this is tampering. I'm not talking to you guys. He gets out his phone. He goes, big mistake. He goes, I'm going to record this. I will go live. Robert said, put that away. He's about to go live. Robert gets him right in the neck. And he grabs his neck and he's like trying to speak. And he said, I didn't see anything. And as he's hunched over holding his neck, and he goes, I haven't seen anything. And Robert said, that ship has sailed. And he looks at Ian. He's like, Ian, you know what you got to do. Finish him off. And so Ian did. And Ian knew full well that's what needed to happen for him not to go to jail. I think he just didn't want to actually do it and wanted to make it seem like Robert was a loose cannon. But you went and got a loose cannon for a reason. Mike goes to Cindy's house and her kids are there and they're like, who are you? They're not having it. Like, whatever. She's not home. The Terminator stops Bunny's. He parks a Jeep in front of the train to stop Bunny's weapons. Meanwhile, Ian and Robert are dumping the body. And Ian's like, wait a minute, we have to get the slugs out. And um, he says, Ian, or not Ian, but Robert says, we have to get the slugs out. And Ian was like, okay. And Robert was doing it with no problem. Ian was like, is this like a walk in the park for you? Mike goes back to the office and the warden is there to talk to him. She tells him, okay, Mike, you win. I will separate Ian or Kyle. I will separate Kyle from Callahan. So meanwhile, Robert and Ian are dragging the body, and Ian was having a hard time. And Robert said, "You need to work out. You need to hit the gym." And Ian was like calling him a psychopath, and Robert said, it just feels good to have purpose." Okay, but listen, I always liked Robert. I'm not gonna lie. So Cindy shows up at Mike's place, and he's happy to see her. I like this. They're cute. I like it. He was telling her about the warden. That's why he went to her house, and because he was asking her about her. He told her kids were there, and she said, yeah, they're not really trusting. And he said, I don't blame you. You don't mess with mom. He understands that they're protective over her. And they just had a cute little conversation. come back for part two.